Yo guys, Kaito here, and today we're gonna be making a very good tier list. This is gonna be 100% meta accurate, and this is gonna be the be all end all of all tier lists, to be honest. So let's just not waste any time. Let's get into it. I'm just gonna go along the characters here, and let's see what monstrosity is gonna happen. So first of all, I think Albedo is pretty average. I think Albedo is a very solid unit in certain teams, but I think that he's not exactly necessary for those teams. But he's still actually like a very good filler spot, so you can get your double Geo off, so that you can get the EM buff for Hutao, for example, and he's still a pretty good battery for Etho. So I think he's about average. Alloy is worthless. She has intrinsically no value at all. Amber is very good in Hutao teams. I think I would put her on average. I'm also not gonna be like ranking them in order for the tiers below, because that's just too much effort, but I'll put Amber there because she's wife. Ayaka is a very strong hyper carry. I think she's very powerful, but sadly Freeze isn't that good in this Abyss or the previous Abyss, where I would probably put her in top tier, but it is what it is. She's a very good option. She does good damage. She does good front-loaded burst damage. Freeze is just a free team. You could play it without any effort at all. So I think she deserves to be in very powerful tier. Barbara is bad. You have no real reason to use Barbara right now. Beidou is average, I would say. Beidou's niche is two enemy fights that are close to each other. But right now, in the Abyss, there is nothing even similar to that. And when there is, they have Electro Aura. This was the same in previous Abysses. You had the two Ruin Guards fight in the previous Abyss, I think, when they had Electro Aura, so that intrinsically just ruins this character. She's not that good in like single target DPS, and she's not that good in just massive DPS, because you're just ruining you're spreading your DPS out too thin. Now we have the first of them. He's simply just too powerful. He does very much of everything. He does everything pretty much very well. He's a great DPS on like Soup, or as the main field for the original National, which is not the greatest team, but it's still like an okay team to run. He's an insane support, gives you up to 1200 attack, healing, cleanse, insane battery, and he synergizes with a very good character that is gonna come up soon. So yeah. He's just there. He's good, and he's on the best team in the game. Ooh. Chongyun is below average. That's just how this works. He doesn't do much. His E infusion is practically useless, except you're running if you're up against the Hydro Heralds, and even then, I'm pretty sure that just running Rosaria is the better option for you. If you just run Rosaria Kaya, you can do it much faster than a Chongyun. D-Luke, the original DPS. I think D-Luke is average. I think D-Luke is average. I'm rating these, by the way, 5 stars. I'm going to be rating them at C0, and 4 stars are going to be C6, because it's just that. I think that's the standard now that we should uphold. So I think Diluc is very average. He's still good. Like everything, like if you're using someone like above this tier here, below average, or even this tier, you're gonna clear Abyss without any actual like much effort if you actually invest into your unit. So Diluc is still good at C0. It's just he did slightly fall off because, well, we just have better units now, and we discovered the better teams. So yeah, Diona is a tough one because I'm biased towards making Diona very good. I think Diona is below average now. used to run her in international for the 200 EM because I fucking despise sucrose, but yeah, I think that's just like a personal preference that no one else should really uphold. Like, I'll be real. She's there. She's a good battery healer, shielder, 200 EM buffer on like a vape team or a melt team. So it's fine. She's fine. Eula. Eula's a tough one. I think this is gonna be the most populated tier, but she is average. I do believe that C0 Diluc is probably better than Eula. Eula has the better sheets. Eula will on paper have the better damage, but Diluc is just so much better to use that you just have much more consistent runs, and you're running like an insane rotation with Diluc, whereas Eula you have to run very copium, and it isn't that good, especially in the current Abyss where if you have a C0 Eula you need to stack, and you just have no situation where you can stack now. Yanfei, I would say Yanfei is average. She's basically just she's a very similar DPS to Diluc. You know, if you give her what the good ratios, she's gonna do easily 100k vapes on the charge attack. It's just she's good. She's a good single target DPS. Fischl is top tier. She's a very powerful electro sub DPS. Sub DPSs have so much value because you could use someone else who is a very powerful on field DPS. And now you have two DPSs working together. That's why the best team in the game is the best team in the game, which I will tell you what the best team in the game is soon enough. But this is why Fischl is top tier, because she's a sub DPS. She's Electro, which may or may not cock her depending on which team you're actually running her on. Soup teams are pretty okay. You could use her with Raiden, but don't bother. She's very good. She's very powerful. She does insane off-field damage, so she's fine. Ganyu is also top tier. She does good melt damage. Morgana's copium. Morgana works even against the Ruined Snake. Like you can definitely do like 1 minute 30 clears with Morgana on the Ruined Snake, but it's just like, why would you bother? Just run melt. If you want to play Morgana against the Ruined Snake, be my guest, but this is just where she is right now. She's top tier. Melt is pretty good. I'm gonna skip over Goro until I put Ito down. Hutao is, I would also say, top tier. I think Hutao is a very powerful option for single target DPS. She has an insane damage ceiling, and even without cancels, she's very good. You can use her with good old funny people Jinchu Yalan, and she does good. Yeah, she's a great main DPS, on-fielder DPS, whatever, for single target and bosses as well. So Ito, I think Ito is very powerful. I think that Ito is just a strong hyper carry. He needs high investment. Obviously, he's a hyper carry. He is going to need that higher investment, as all non-reaction hyper carries do. Since he has less stuff he can scale with, he scales so much higher with those stats. That's how this game balances units like Zhang Ling with, I don't know, let's say Zhao, right? Zhao only really scales with attack and crit, whereas Zhang Ling has to use attack, crit, EM, and she desperately needs ER. Zhao, you can get away with 120 on some teams. On his best team, you can get away with 120, 130. So that's why, the game will balance out the hyper carries that don't need as many stats by making it so that, well, they just scale much better with the stats that they can scale with. And this is where people will actually get really upset with me, but I'm putting Goro on the same tier as Ito. And this is where people are very fucking stupid. Goro isn't niche at all. Because he only works in one team does not mean he's niche. That's not what niche is. If that one team can dominate the entire abyss, that team isn't niche. That team is a powerful team. You cannot expect units to be the second of Bennett or the second of Kazuo or the second of, I don't know, any of these characters that were like Zhang Li, right? That just like yeah, you put them in any team, like it doesn't matter what team they're on, they're just gonna do what they do best. Like those are units that don't need supports to do what they're doing. That's why, two of them are the two best units in the game right now, in my opinion. Goro is a very powerful support for Ito, to the point where I think that you actually need to use Goro for Ito to even be competitive in today's meta. He gives him the damage and he gives him the battering. You need Goro for Ito, and that's why I think that he should be in the same tier, because they both are on the same team, and they're both on the same amount of teams. You cannot. Where are you going to use Ito? First of all, you're not ever going to use Ito without Goro if you're playing optimally, and you're going to use Ito in what? He's the hyper carry. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna run a Wolf Gravestone 4 Exile Ito to buff your Noel, right? Like, no, you're not gonna do that, right? Hopefully you're not gonna do that. But I'm just saying, they're on the same amount of teams, and they're both optimal in that one team that they're on. So I'm just saying, the unit and their optimal support should be in the same tier if they're on the same amount of teams, or if they're only on those teams. And the reason why I put Albedo here, because you could say, well, Albedo's also on this team, but you don't need Albedo for Ito. You could run Fischl in this team and it would work around the same. Albedo is very good in this team. He will do roughly 30,000 E-procs with the Cinnabar, which is like, it's pretty good. That's 15,000 free DPS, and you have an off-field energy generator for Ito, which is just insanely good. But you could run Fischl, right? You could run Fischl and the team would do roughly the same damage. She does very similar damage in this team because she's not getting all those buffs that she typically would get. So for that reason, I think Ito is not Ito. Albedo is below Goro and Ito in this. So yeah, I think that the support, the niche support. Goro is only on one team. Oh no. Yeah, your mother. Kaya is. I don't even know where to put Kaya. He's such a questionable unit. You could run reverse melt Kaya and it would be one of the worst things you've ever experienced. You could run freeze Kaya and it's one of the worst things you've ever experienced. You can run Kaya as a battery, which is okay, but use Rosaria XD. So I think he's just below average, in my opinion. He does, like, you can't tell me that he outperforms Yan Faye. Oh yeah, the starter 4 stars, I think I'm gonna have them at C2 or 3, because I think that's fair. You have just so much less pulls in the starter, the permanent pool banner, that, or what is it, the standard banner, yeah, that you're not going to get these characters at C6, so I think that assuming them at C3 is fair. Even then, Kaya is not like magically so much better at C6, where like he's still the same unit practically, he just does a slight amount more damage. So I think that, he's there. He doesn't out damage like D-Luke. He doesn't outdo Albedo or Amber in their best teams. I think Beto is still a better option. I think Eula and they're better options than Kaya. That's why I think that he's just below average right now. And then this average tier is just around this power level, right? So he's just going to be below average in my opinion. And I think you can guess where this guy's going. Yeah, he's going to them. But I'm gonna do this because I think that, okay, before I say this, right? Kazuo is just a universally powerful option. If you're running an elemental team, Kazuo works there. If you're running an elemental team, Kazuha is very highly likely the best option there to put there. If if you're running the best team in the game, he's optimal there. So much so, like, he's so much better than Sucrose, but I don't get why people really downplay Kazuha and really, like, just put Sucrose on this massive pedestal. If these two units did the exact same thing, in how much damage they boost, I would still put Kazuha at so much more above him, because he's so much better to play. The grouping on his E and the AoE on his Q and his actual, like, pretty good personal damage, because he does a lot of swirls, just puts him above Sucrose, and that's just it. That's just how it goes. Damage in this game after you reach a certain point is irrelevant. After you reach you need 40,000 DPS, and you can clear the hardest content in the game currently. The hardest reoccurring content, which is Abyss, is very easy. That's why I said, if you're running units that are in the below average or above tier, you're just going to clear. Like, you can pretty much pick any of these characters, make any team with them, and with investment, you can clear the Abyss. You can. It's just that easy. Actually, these three characters in the below average tier make a really good team. You can run Freeze Kaya with this team, and it's still a really good team. That's what I'm saying. It's like, once you reach a certain amount of DPS, you don't really need DPS. Now you want comfort. Now you want consistency. Now you want better rotations, and now you want your energy to be back. And now you want so many things that are just not DPS. Even then, Sucrose in the best teams does not compete with Kazuha's output. You can run something like a Sucrose-driven Taser. That's my phone. That's crazy. You can run something like a Sucrose-driven Taser, and I think that team will is better with Sucrose in it than it is with Kazuha. But I don't think that team is that amazing in the first place. I don't think that team is meta. I don't think that team is better than the options that Kazuha has, at least. So, for that reason, I think, Kazuha is just that good. Kazuha is just that powerful. He's pretty much a universal support for all elemental teams. There's very, like, rare amounts of teams that Kazuha isn't ran on, like, obviously not counting the physicals, the mono geos, and the what is it, like, the Zhao teams. But you could run him with Zhao. He does very powerful with Zhao. Like, I've used him with Zhao. He's a great grouper. He can use Freedom Sworn. He's a battery, and an off-field sub DPS. Why could you not run him with Zhao? You can run him with Zhao. So I'm just saying, like, he's a very powerful unit. And in the elemental teams that you can't run him on, it's something like reverse melt, right? Where you're better off running either for Ganyu, or you're better off running Zhongli as a shielder. You're better off running Jean or Zhangling as for the pyro output. I don't think, for just the screenshots and stuff, you're better off running Kazuha over Zhangling. But for actual damage and rotations, I think you just run Zhangling, which is quite funny, because Zhangling Oppa Kazuha. And here's where people really get upset. I think Kazuha is better than Bennett. I think Kazuha, with his on average 35 to 40% elemental damage bonus, Freedom Sworn, VV, the crowd control, the grouping, the very nice little funny sub DPS, swirl off field thingy thing. I think he's just a better option in a lot of teams than Bennett would be. Kazuha works in so many teams that I think that's the reason why he's above Bennett. I argued here, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter just how many teams you can work on. If that one team clears, then that you're meta, right? Like, you're amazing. You're not niche if your one team can clear all content. But in this situation where They're basically very similar units in how much how they perform and how much they actually boost your damage. But Kazuo has on teams like on Taser, on Freeze that you just wouldn't run Bennett on anyway, uh, unless you're coping. But you could run Bennett on Taser and Freeze. You could run Soup with Bennett, right? But even in that Soup team, you're running Kazuha because you want Bennett as the driver, right? So Kazuha, to me, is just the best unit in the game right now. He offers something that very little units offer, which is crowd control. Venti does it too, but Venti does it away from him. He doesn't do it on him. So against some enemies, you're gonna struggle because you're gonna have to take a lot of field time to run back, position yourself so that Venti's burst actually goes in the direction you want it to go. For Kazuha, you switch, you E, you plunge, you Q, and most of them are going to be in a group or dead even if you're running the current floor 12-1 side 1 for Kazuha. He basically wipes the wave with his hold E. It's quite good. So because of that, I think that he's just the better option than Bennett. Well, he's a better unit than Bennett. If he's a better option, it just depends on the team, of course. Ka-ching, yes, the Electro is bad funny moment thing. I find Ka-ching below average, and that's all that really has to be said, to be honest. She doesn't do much. She's just below average. It's just, that's kind of where I would put Ka-ching. Klee is a very powerful option in Mono Pyro. She's a very powerful option in Mono Pyro. I think I genuinely might put Klee in very powerful. Because here's the thing, Klee is just annoying to play. But if you're pulling Klee, I think you should know the cancels. Because that's just how it goes, right? Of course, I have Hutao here who uses cancels to be a top tier DPS. We have Ganyu here who does use one cancel, but it's a very easy cancel. But Ganyu's just an annoying unit to play on the melt teams. Kokomi. People hated her on release, said she was useless. People ride her right now. People just really overrate Kokomi right now. Some people that I know would put Kokomi in top tier, which is confusing to me, because they would then put Zhongli as a bad unit, even though they're the same type of unit, because they offer comfort. If you have someone like Kokomi on freeze, let's say, where I think most people would use her on, I don't think if you're running Kokomi Taser or like the soup team with her, if you're doing that, then sure, she's probably one of the better options there. You know, of course, if you're coping, that is, you could just replace her with Jinchu and you have a better team. But let's not talk about that, right? Let's not mention that. If you're running her on freeze, why not run Mona? What's the difference? Well, Kokomi has more comfort, right? Well, yeah, but does she? Mona can permafreeze. And if you're running her on the two actual prominent freeze teams, which is Ayaka and Ganyu, if you're running Ganyu freeze Morgana, you're running Venti, which means that Mona is the option to use there, because you can swirl the burst with Hydro, which is what you should do. I don't know why people don't, but you swirl the burst with Hydro, and that's how you permafreeze, basically. Same with the Kazuha variant for the freeze teams. But, well, if you're running her with Ayaka, well, Ayaka's damage window is 5 seconds, or 6 seconds, right? Which is perfect for Mona's Omen duration. After that, you're gonna rotate for energy, right? And do a couple Ayaka charge attacks. You don't need perma uptime for the Ayaka team. At least that's what I've observed. You don't need to perma freeze with Ayaka. You can just do the rotations properly and have the freeze uptime when you actually need to freeze. So to make Kokomi, I would put her in below average. I think she just doesn't do enough to be better than Amber, which people still consider Amber to be one of the worst damaging worst units in the game, right? But it's just Amber is a good option for Hutao if you run her with Elegant instructors. So because she's good in one team, I would put her above Kokomi, who is, well, not really that good in the best teams, but also, but she's good in very average teams. Is why I would put Kokomi there, which it might be a bit harsh, but I don't know. I don't know. But Mona's also with her. Mona's garbage. Mona is very bad. She's on like screenshot teams. That's it. That's all Mona uses, and she's on the freeze teams, which, as I've said, it's kind of copium. Lisa's bad. Straight up, Lisa's bad. Ningguang is very powerful. Ningguang in single target DPS is she's insanely strong because of just how much she has such ridiculous scaling, and she scales so well with high investment. People will cope, say, "Oh, Geo's a bad element. Geo's a bad element." Well, might be, but it doesn't matter because you have these units that scale so ridiculously high. You get a Ningguang, and she's doing 14k per Q on average with a Zhongli buff only, pretty much, right? With Bennett, you get up to 24k. It's quite ridiculous just how well these no reaction hypercarries scale with, oh wait, the investment that you give them, right? It's just people really downplay Geo because they don't have the reactions, which would be fair if reactions were the only thing that mattered, but they're not. If your team has DPS without reactions, then you obviously don't really need reactions, right? That's why, Monopyroclee is a very powerful team if you know the cancels, right? Same thing with Ningguang. Ningguang is a very powerful character if you can pull off the cancels. That's why I think that she's very powerful. Noelle is just Noelle is below average, but top of below average. Noelle is pretty good, but after Ito's release, I don't really see any point in using Noelle. I used to use. I have a Noelle build. I've used her up until the release of Ito, which is funnily enough, right? But it's just like, yeah, she's very, very below average. She's kind of just a. Jean, my wife, is no bias, by the way, very powerful. Absolutely zero bias. She's insane in Sunfire, and that's all you need, really, right? She's great on Sunfire teams, and that's all you need to know. She heals as well. She swirls, she cleanses, she has actually pretty good crowd control on her E. That's all. Yeah, she's very powerful. I think she's better than all these characters and very powerful. Yeah, GG's worthless. You have no reason to use GG. Razor is below average. Razor is just a worse than Eula unit. Rosaria's, I think, average. Rosaria is pretty good for, well, she's, I think, optimal in the Eula team right now. She's okay at reverse melt, but I wouldn't recommend that team to anyone. She's okay at freeze, but use Shenhe, please. Haha, rhymes. But yeah, she's kind of okay. She's fine. I would put Sarah in the same situation. She works on, well, Raiden hypercarry teams, and that's all she works on pretty much. She's horrible with a unit like Beidou, and Fischl. Even though they can snapshot her attack buff, they can't snapshot her crit damage buff, which is just a massive part of her kit. She's very clunky to play. She has a lot of energy issues. Uh, she does pretty good sub DPS though. If you give her a harp, which is just a powerful weapon for her anyway because of the base attack, so you're getting more buffing on her E. She's a pretty good option as a sub DPS for Raiden. Uh, but I don't know how much I would place her in the overall grand scheme of things, because Raiden has other options that you can run. Because I'm not assuming a C2 Raiden, Sarah has just lost the value. Which is, it is what it is. Sayu's bad. She's just, imagine Jean, but worse. Shenhe is, I think, very powerful. Or is she average? I don't know. Because this is the same situation with Goro Ito, where, okay, if you're using the, this is true, yeah. If you're using Ayaka, Shenhe's great. Yo, can you? Yeah, there we go. If you're using Ayaka, Shenhe's great. If you're using Ayaka, you're running freeze. Or you could do the funny melts, which you could use Shenhe on Ayaka melt. Why not? So yeah, these two are a pairing. Which this is actually, yeah, I agree with this. I think that Shenhe is a very powerful option because she's very powerful for Ayaka, who is a very powerful unit. Yeah. Raiden. Raiden is a questionable one. I think I will wait for a little bit before I can, put people in there. But hold on, let me balance these out. Okay, so I think Hutao is better than Fischl and then Ganyu. No, Ganyu is better than Fischl. Okay, Child. Let's do that. Easily the best in top tier. Top tier is technically the highest tier here. So okay, let's rename this for gaming. Yes. I think this is the better name for this team is gaming. That's all you need to know. Yeah. If it wasn't a surprise, this might be a surprise, guys, but Child is on the best team in the game with International. So let's just put you there. Yes. And this is the same argument. It's a niche team. He only has one team with International. But guess what? Who's in the them category here, right? The two best units in the game. Bennett Kazuo, right? And who do I think, Xiangling, right? Xiangling, most people would say, is the best pyro DPS, right? So in what scenario would Child not be a top tier unit alongside these four? And you might think, okay, just use Jinchu. Well, the XQ team has a lower DPS because it's just how rotations work, how good we've gotten at actually optimizing rotations. His cooldown does not matter. If he had no cooldown, obviously you could reduce the rotation time by maybe like 2 or 3 seconds, maybe 4. But a 4-second reduction of rotation is a pretty substantial increase, but it's not something you would go, oh my god, this is game changing. No, it's a pretty good increase, but it's not game changing for him. It doesn't make his kit worse. His C6 is insane, but it's not something where you go, yes, I need the C6 to play him, right? He's not like Eula where you need the C6 to play her. And he's not like Diluc where you need the C6 to play him, right? Child is just, he's a complete unit at C0. He does ridiculous damage. He does very good AoE damage and single target damage. And he keeps up with pretty much every single other applicator in the game, right? You could have 2 other Clees on your team and you would probably keep up with the optimal Child combos. if you start off with a Hydra aura, right? It's just so he just allows Zhangling to vape. He has a very powerful burst. You could probably just get like 300k vapes on that easily. Uh, that's that's all that can be said to him, right? Like about him, he's a solid unit. That's on the best team in the game. Another argument that some people have said is that he's only good because of his supports. He's not the reason why the international team is good. It's because the top tier supports that he's using allows him to be that good. Okay, so let me do this, right. I think we can all agree that Jinchu is here. So who the fuck is Raiden then? Who does Raiden use? Raiden uses the same supports pretty much. She uses Bennett Zhangling and Jinchu for Raiden National. She uses Bennett Kazuha and the Sara for hyper carry, or between Sara and who the fuck is this? Fischl for the hyper carry. So, in what scenario how would you rate Raiden higher than Child if that is your take? If that is your reasoning for why Child isn't actually that good? You'd say he's getting carried by supports. When what the fuck is Raiden doing? The DPS or the on-field unit is getting carried by supports, or the team has support. Yeah, no shit, right? Ganyu's getting carried by Bennett Zhangling, Kazuha Zhangli, right? Ayaka's getting carried by any Hydro, Unimo, and Shenhe, or any Cryo, right? Ito's getting carried by Goro or something, right? Clay is getting carried by Bennett Kazuha. Like, dude, Zhao's getting carried by Bennett Jean. Like, dude, what is this stupid fucking argument that, the DPS is getting carried by the supports? Yeah, no shit. That's how the game works. You have one or two units on the team that do damage, and the others are just supports, because that's how you optimally play the game. If you have 4 DPS options on the team, it won't work, even if you have 1 on-fielder and 3 off-fielders, because overall, you're not going to do any real damage because you don't have any support going on. If you have a team like Soup, where you have 3 units on the team that do damage, well, guess what? 2 of them are still supports, right? So, where does this come from? That, well, the support, right? Like the support, Bennett Kazuha again, support. Well, this would be true with a unit like Beidou. If you use Bennett Kazuha Sara for Beidou, I think that's just okay. That is just Bennett Kazuha Sara carrying, because it's not Beidou's best team. Beidou's best team is not on that roster, right? You're not gonna run hyper carry Beidou. That isn't her best option. But if the unit's best team includes these meta supports, well, tough shit, bro. Tough luck. This is why they're meta, because they can abuse these absolutely meta characters perfectly, right? That's why Child is meta. If Zhangling didn't exist, if Bennett didn't exist, do you think Child would be good? But also, do you think Ganyu would be good without Bennett Zhangling? Do you think Raiden would be good without her supports of like the Raiden Astral or the Raiden Hypercarry supports, right? But they do, and they can use these units. They can get these supports, right? So he's there. He is the second best 5-star option to pull. He's insane. And again, he only has 1 team, right? Well, it's the best team in the fucking game. There isn't a single floor in the Abyss right now where international, well, ever actually, that international has been bad. There hasn't been any. Why is that? Because it uses 2 elements, and these 2 elements are so fucking powerful and so widespread that if they put something to nerf them, that would nerf so many people's actual accounts, right? Imagine if you took out all the pyro options and all the hydro options from here. Look at how many of these characters would just instantly drop to worthless, right? So again, international, best team in the game, easily. Child, he's a driver for that team. He has his own very powerful damage. He's good. He's there. He's a fucking powerful unit. And this is where the funny moments start. I fucking hate Sucrose. I despise Sucrose. I think Sucrose is one of the most like overrated characters. But I'll put her in very powerful because I will take this slightly more seriously. But I think Sucrose does offer you good enough damage to make up for the fact that she is just shit to play. So yeah, Sucrose is there. Sucrose is fine. Questionable. Toma's worthless. No point using her. This is difficult. Right now, Venti is below average. Some people not like that, but Venti is below average. What are you going to run Venti on? Well, if you run him on the first side, sure, but a good chunk of the top DPSs can't actually hit inside Venti's burst. So are you going to run Ayato Taser on the first half? Well, okay. Have fun with your very fun rotations in Ayato Taser and this Abyss. Venti's deadweight in the second chamber. So is Kazuo actually, but he's just better in the other chambers to make up for that fact. So overall, I think Venti right now is below average at the moment, because at the moment we're getting into a phase of these single target boss floor DPSs, DPS needs, so that Venti is his grouping isn't exactly that amazing, but his burst is still good enough damage to make up for that. But as I said already, the field time you need to use his burst against enemies that can't be moved is just too high for me to actually like him, because he groups away from you. I think that that really hurts him as a unit, because you have to waste so much field time running back, positioning, doing all this and that, hopping through all the hoops and ticking all the boxes to make his burst efficient. So I think I will put Venti in average. But, depending on where the game is, right, he could either be there or he can be there. Or even there, right? So he's a very, very, very... He is a niche unit, actually, because he relies on a certain type of content and teams. So he's the perfect example of a niche unit. Yeah, Venti's niche. Venti fell off. As sad as it is, he offers you the VV buff, which is fine. But if you want a VV buffer, run Jean, right? Run Sayu at that point. Run Sucrose. Run Hazo, right? Run Anemo Traveler. You don't, all these Anemo units can carry VV, but it does, they do different things. So Venti, with the potential of being the best unit in the game, also has the potential of being one of the worst characters in the game. But no matter what, he still won't be as bad as Toma and Chi-Chi and Alloy. He's average. I think top of average is a very good place to put him at. Zhao is a non-reaction hyper carry. He's just about the same as Ito. But wait, I think Ito is better than Ayako. Yeah, people won't like that, but I think I think this is fine. Do that. There we go. Jinyan is bad. Just Jinyan is really bad. I have her built. She does fine, but that's just because of the ridiculously high investment that I've actually given her. But Xinyan is bad. Yae is bordering average and powerful, depending on the content and the teams that you're actually using her on. She's very Raiden dependent on her best teams, because you're not going to run her on Taser, you're not going to run her on Hyper Carry. What are you gonna do? Use her to support Eula? Yeah, I do that. I run Yai to support my Eula, but guess what? Do you know why I do that? Because I have a C2 Yai, and and I also have a C3 Raiden, and I also have a C6 Eula. So if when I have the C6 Eula, it doesn't matter what I use her on. It doesn't matter what team I use her on. I slap the units on there and I do a little EQE and they're dead. That's all that matters when you have the C6 Eula, you know. But I'm not rating her at C6, and I'm not rating her at her C6 or C2. She's very average. She's just a very bang average unit. She requires high field time, but it's not too much of an issue because of how rotations work. You could calc a good rotation where you could use her. You could slot in her field time perfectly, and you wouldn't have a DPS loss. But one of the things that really annoys me about her is that she's an off-field unit, but she does not snapshot. So what this does for is that if you do EEE at the start and then you switch to Bennett and then you switch to Kazuha, she will get the Kazuha buff. So in a team like Taser, it's better for her to not snapshot, because you could EE at the start and do your whole rotation, then you would QEE and then do all these stuffs. But if you're using her with like Raiden, right, which is I think the best team that you could place her on, it really hurts her to not snapshot, because you would do Raiden E, Bennett Kazuha, and then her. She would get the attack and damage bonus snapshotted onto her skill, and she would just carry that for the entire off-field duration, and she would do so much more damage. She would do maybe 50% more damage, because her weapon doesn't have attack. She doesn't have that many attack sources on her artifacts. You run 2-piece attack on her, or even 2-piece noblesse, depending on, I guess, the enemy count and the rotations and how you play her. But I think 2 noblesse, 2 everything else is fine. You also could run 2 Thunder Fury, but farming that domain is very funny. So she would do so much better with the snapshot, in my personal opinion, on her better teams. But there's probably a reason why they did not let her snapshot, and maybe in the long run, meta-wise, it's good for her to not snapshot. But she's also a very questionable unit in the fact that she scales off. She gives herself a damage bonus based on the EM she has. Now, this is good for teams like Taser, and this could be good for teams including Dendro, which I think that Dendro is looking like it will be very good and very meta relevant. But I don't know why they released the character now that's going to be good in a future update. I'd say now, but she's a couple patches old, so I don't know why they would release a unit that's going to be good in maybe 6 patches later. So you have 8 months, 9 months of her just being very bang average, and then they buff them, right? It's sort of similar with what Child got, because he got a large amount of buffs on his team. He got Thunder Pulse, he got Polar Star, he got Aqua, he got the 4-piece Hydro set. Zhangling got Emblem and got Engulfing. Then they got Kazuha. So Bennett got Mistsplitter. So overall, yes, it's good that units are going to get buffed because of new options. But Yai isn't powerful at now. So I don't know. What is the point of you using Yai? What are you gonna do? You run Raiden Soup, Raiden Overvape or something. Well, not Raiden, Yai Soup, Yai Overvape. So I really don't get the decision between for Yai being like this. If her E's, if they all individually so targeted like different enemies, so like they all individually picked an enemy, I think that would be the best. So what would happen is you could basically have 3 times her damage output, and then yeah, I think she would be in gaming. I'd say I don't really speak about Jinchu, by the way. I just kind of slapped them on there, but yeah, I'll feel the Hydro pretty much amazing, right? Raiden is at the bottom end of gaming because, well, I think that Raiden is good, but it's just like she's not amazing as C0. So yeah. Next it is Yoimiya, who is also average. She is just a strictly bad pyro DPS. She's locked to single target, which if you look at Ningguang and Hutao. Hutao isn't locked to single target. Of course, she's great in single target, but she isn't locked to single target, right? Her charge attacks have an amount of AoE. Her burst has a good amount of AoE. But if you position yourself, Hutao does have AoE. Yoimiya does not. Inside of Venti burst, if you use Yoimiya, you're going to hit one target exactly. So she's not. She doesn't have a small AoE where she fires the arrows, which would have been the best thing for her. She is just single target, and for that single target, she offers not that much damage. I think she has more value than what all of I think these units. I would say Diluc is better than Yoimiya, which is going to upset people, but I think Diluc is a better unit than Yoimiya. And he's just much better to play. Yoimiya really wants that shielder, so you don't offset your internal cooldowns, and it's just very, very annoying to play Yoimiya. People will say, well, Yoimiya out damages Hutao in single target. Well, she doesn't. She does not. She doesn't. There isn't a scenario where Yoimiya will out damage Hutao, unless it's the Golden Wolf Lord, But guess what? Yoimiya misses her shots on the Wolf Lord as well, so it's just very, very questionable. Yunjin, she's below average. She's practically locked to Yoimiya, Ayato, and Hutao, but they're not the best. She's not like the best option for them. The Yoi Copers will say, well, no, Yunjin is very good for Yoimiya, but no, she's not. And, I do wish people would start to realize that, but, she's not. But it's fine. It's fine to be wrong, guys. Come on. But, I'm just saying, she's below average. She's very below average. And, yeah, these tiers, I'm not going to rank the below average tier. Can't be asked. Zhongli is a questionable unit. I think Zhongli could, I could have an argument to put him here because he does belong on this team, and he belongs on the Zhao team, and the Ningguang, and maybe Klee, but whatever, right? So Zhongli is a pure just defensive option. He has a very powerful shield. He has 20% shred. He could give you 20% attack. He could give you 40% full damage bonus for Petra. I'm not even sure. I could check in game right now, but I'm too lazy. But yeah, Petra's fine. It's good enough. But it's this misconception that his burst is a DPS loss, which, yeah, it wasn't in 1.1 when we didn't know what rotations were, and the best team in the game was Kaching and Diluc, right? So once you actually think about, well, my rotations are going to be against an enemy that has a, a trillion HP, so I need to run 5,000 rotations, the GCSIM moment. Zhongli is not a DPS loss. In fact, he's very good. Currently, he's very good for, well, Chamber 1, because, well, he can stun the cryo gunners, which can allow you to pretty much one rotation uh the the thing the the chamber, because you won't get frozen and you won't get the cryo debuff on you, which is just slows down your attack speed, right? So he's optimal in the Ito 1 rotation. He's pretty much close to optimal in non-Z6 Zhao's rotations. Well, for that chamber specifically, he's optimal for Ganyu. He's sort of ish, maybe kind of optimal for Hutao. But that's just because Hutao has very questionable options. Running VV Hutao is technically her highest DPS option, but the rotation is so long and it's so clunky that I think you're just better off not doing VV Hutao. And with the funny elegy amber, right, which is here. So for most people, don't run VV Hutao. Run like double Geo. You could run double Geo with Yunjin, Zhongli, and Yelan or Jinchu, and that team will work very well actually. Or you could put in an Albedo for the 125 elemental damage bonus. So it's Zhongli is a good unit. I don't know where people is like, oh, he's not even a top 10 5-star. Well, maybe, but that does not mean he's a bad unit now. Yeah, that means there are better units than him, but that does not make him a bad unit. He's a good unit because guess what? The DPS need for this game is not high at all. The current Ruin Serpent has 2 million HP. That's practically one rotation for my international team. And most people that ride the national teams or ride hypercarry teams, right? When you have Hutao just shitting out 100k charge attacks, right? It's just like, oh, well, okay, right? Or when you have Zhang Ling's shitting out like 60k Q vapes on average, right? With like very poor investment. It's like, yeah. Well then, this abyss is quite funny. This abyss is, yeah, definitely difficult. Yeah, surely. Next option is next thing is Ayato. Ayato, I think, belongs in. Ayato is not as good as Child. This is just wrong. This is flat out wrong. Ayato does not even go on the international or the national type teams with Bennett Zhangling. His best team for me, in my opinion, it would be like a Taser variant. You could use him as a free support, but I personally wouldn't. But it's doable. I think he's a very powerful in here. Yeah, that's fair. Cookie is worthless. This is sad because she's actually just so hot. Enough about that though, but yeah, she's whatever. Yelan is gaming. Yelan is gaming. Let me do that. Yeah, that's fair. Yelan is powerful. That's all I could really say. Yelan is basically a Jinchu side grade, and guess who's in the gaming tier, right? It's Jinchu. She does similar enough damage. She will do more because I think, okay, the I hate this argument, but people will invest in Yelan's damage more than they would in Jinchu's. This isn't an argument for anything, but on average that is what's going to happen. But I think overall Yelan would do more damage than XQ. If you could run, guess what though? You could run Yelan side 1, Jinchu side 2, or run them together for Double Hydro, which is just a powerful team right now. Double Hydro, the Diluc, Double Hydro, Hutao. They're all good teams. They're both good teams, right? So Yelan is a very powerful option. Yeah, I really like Yelan. I really like what they did with Yelan. I like that her E is good. I like the forward dash. I love maneuver abilities. That maneuverability is so valuable for me personally. I like that I don't have to waste stamina to maneuver around, so that I have more stamina for my actual damaging rotations. So it's just, to me, and she gets energy off of that. So to me, Yolanda is just a powerful option, right? She does good damage off field, and she boosts your damage bonus. A pretty okay amount. I wouldn't say it's a significant amount, but it's a pretty good amount, right? She can get up to 50% at the end of your rotation, which I think you won't really see that 50%. If I'm pretty sure it's 50 at least. You'll probably average around 20-25, but it's still a 25% damage on it. That's a free 2-set. That's half a goblet. That's very good. That's slightly worse than what. That's pretty much like close to what Kazuo gives you, right? It's half of what Kazuo gives you. So yeah, they did dupe Yelan and Kuki here. Heizo is. I hate to do this, but he's so fun, but he's very bad. He's a hyper carry without the damage. So he's below average. He's hyper carry, but he doesn't do damage. Like I really don't know what they were doing with Heizo. People will say that, oh well, he does good damage, but he does not do good damage, because his cooldowns are just way too long for him to do the damage, right? I think if his burst wasn't a fucking 12-second cooldown, but if it was a longer cooldown with a much higher actual motion value or like a damage percent, it would be so much better, because it's just how rotations are constructed these days, that your rotation is what gives you the damage, not your funny little screenshots of my Heizo is 100k and the E, dude, it's some good damage, man. Well, yeah, sure. What about the DPS? Yeah, your 15-second Heizo setup for 100k damage is not good team DPS. And we have the Travelers left. I think all of the Travelers are below average or bad for now, right? And I'm not gonna be judging the Sumeru and Dendro people, because I have no fucking clue what they actually do. So yes, this is I think the final list. I have a feeling Amber could drop down now that you're looking at the what is this, the overall list, but I do like making certain individuals angry. So yes indeed, I shall do that. Oh, I think you're better than Ganyu though. I think you're better than Ganyu, and I don't think you're better than these options. Or yeah, that's fine. For average, I think this is fine. I think there is perfect. I think is better than is here, and I think Sara's here. I think this is fine. I think this is a good tier list. Like overall, you're not going to go wrong with a list like this. So that took me an hour. Holy shit. But yes, this is the definitive tier list, dude. If you do not use the top meta units, you're trolling. You're griefing. You're griefing your account. You're bad at the game. You have a skill issue. Get good. These nuts. Your filthy mother. Goodbye.